Those were the first words she said, voice cracked, breath shaking, eyes burning with a mixture of fury and fear. They fell from her lips like a confession, but her stance said something entirely different. She stood tall beneath the vast desert sky, chin high, shoulders squared, refusing to tremble even though her world had just been ripped apart. And that was the moment rancher Caleb Hart realized the Apache girl wasn't weak at all. She was wounded, and there was a difference. The story begins in the blistering summer of 1879, a day when the New Mexico sun pressed down like a hammer and the wind smelled of dust and storm. Caleb was riding the north ridge of his ranch, scouting for stray cattle after a thunderous night, when he spotted the figure, a girl, no more than 18, barefoot, hair wild, running. Behind her, smoke rose in a thin gray column. She didn't look back. She didn't have to. Her past, whatever horrors it held, was chasing her hard enough without feet. Caleb nudged his horse toward her. As he approached, she stumbled but caught herself, turning sharply with a knife in hand. The blade was small, chipped, but she held it with the certainty of someone who'd learned to fight before learning to braid hair. "Easy," Caleb said, hands raised. She breathed raggedly. Her dark eyes were ringed with soot, her dress torn at the hem. He wasn't sure if the tremble in her arm came from exhaustion or adrenaline. "My name's Caleb Hart, rancher. I ain't here to hurt you." For a moment she didn't speak. The wind filled the silence. Then, voice worn thin, she whispered the words that would echo in Caleb's life for years. "I can't live without a man, my father." She swallowed, fighting back the crack in her throat. They took him, and that was all she needed to say. Her name was Nayland. She had lived with her father in a small Apache settlement near the foothills. A faction of outlaw traders, men who cared for neither law nor life, had burned through the settlement, stealing horses, supplies, and any able-bodied man who could fetch a price. Her father, Hania, had been one of the tribe's finest trackers, and they wanted him alive. Nayland had fought. Caleb could see the fresh bruises on her arms. She had lost count of how many times she'd swung her father's old knife. But she was only one girl. Outnumbered, overpowered, and now alone. Caleb couldn't leave her, not with the threat of those men still roaming the territory. Whatever life she'd had was gone. Whatever came next depended on someone helping her stand again. "Come on," he told her. "You can stay at the ranch. We'll figure this out." She hesitated. Apache pride ran deep, even in the young and frightened. But finally she nodded. And that was the start of everything. The Hart ranch was sturdy, sprawling over several hundred acres of sun-swept grass and red soil. The buildings were simple but well kept. A long bunkhouse, a barn filled with the earthy smell of hay and horse hair, and Caleb's home, built by his father and maintained by his own rough hands. Nayland watched every corner of the ranch like she was studying an enemy camp. She flinched when doors banged. She slept sitting up for 3 nights straight. But she worked hard, cleaning stalls, feeding horses, hauling water. Caleb tried to get her to rest, but she refused. "I earn my keep," she said, chin set like hammered steel. But Caleb saw the crack inside her. At night, when she thought no one listened, he heard her whisper to the darkness. "I will find you, father, I will bring you home." He admired her spirit. He feared for it too. Trouble came 2 weeks later. Word reached the ranch that a group of armed riders, matching the description of the outlaws, had been spotted trading stolen goods in the nearby town of Las Piedras. One witness swore they had a captured Apache man with them. When Nayland heard, she didn't cry. Didn't shout. She simply stood. "I'm going after him." Caleb knew that tone. It was the same tone he'd heard in his own voice the night his younger brother had died from a fever he couldn't pay a doctor to treat. A tone carved from helpless rage and sharpened by grief. "You're not going alone," he told her. "I don't need you. I didn't say you needed me. I'm saying I'm going." Nayland stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. The ride to Las Piedras was tense. The sun baked the desert until it shimmered. The horses kicked up tiny clouds of dust that hung behind them like ghosts unable to keep up. As they approached the outskirts, they dismounted and walked. Smoke drifted from the saloon chimneys. The streets were muddy, the sound of piano keys clashing with the shouts of drunken men. Caleb touched Nayland's shoulder gently. "Stay close. Don't draw attention." But she couldn't help drawing attention. Her posture was too sharp, her eyes too alert. This girl wasn't meant for shadows, she was carved for battle. They slipped into the abandoned stable behind the general store, waiting until dusk. And that was when they saw them. 4 outlaws stood outside the saloon, laughing, tossing coins, drinking whiskey like water. And beside them, bound, bruised, but alive, was Hania. Nayland inhaled so sharply Caleb thought her ribs might crack. "We'll get him," Caleb whispered. "But we need a plan." "There is no plan," she said. She stepped into the open. "Damn it, Nayland." But she was already moving. And Caleb followed. Later, Caleb wouldn't remember each detail of the fight, only flashes. The metallic clang of someone's revolver dropping. The guttural yell of a man surprised by a knife-armed girl. The thunder of fists. The echo of shouts spilling from the saloon. The chaos swirling into a single storm. Nayland fought with the fury of every stolen moment of her life. She moved fast, silent, her knife a silver blur. Caleb covered her, firing once, twice, disarming another outlaw before he could reload. It was a fight neither side expected, 2 determined souls against hardened criminals. In the end, it wasn't strength that decided it. It was purpose. When the dust settled, 3 outlaws lay groaning in the dirt. The 4th ran limping out of town, never daring to look back. Nayland fell to her knees beside her father, cutting the ropes around his wrists. "Father, it's me. I'm here." Hania lifted a trembling hand to her cheek. "My brave girl," he whispered. "I knew you would come." And she wept, silent, shaking sobs into the chest of the man she had walked through hell for. Caleb gave them his horses. Insisted, actually. He walked them back to the foothills where the remnants of the Apache settlement lay. Fires had long since cooled, but the land still held the scars of violence. Nayland and her father would rebuild with what remained of their people. Before Caleb turned his horse to leave, Nayland stepped forward. "You saved us," she said. "I said I couldn't live without a man, I was wrong." He frowned a little. She placed her hand over her heart. "I can live without a man. But I will never live without gratitude. And I will never forget you." Caleb tipped his hat. "You don't owe me a thing." "No," she said softly. "But I give you thanks anyway." Their eyes met, 2 souls strengthened by the same fire. Then Nayland stepped back toward her father. As Caleb rode away, he realized something. Nayland hadn't stayed alive because she needed a man. She stayed alive because she had the courage to fight for the people she loved. And with that, a hard truth settled in his chest. Sometimes the bravest thing a person can say isn't "I need someone," it's "I will survive, even when I'm alone." And that was her story. A girl who thought she couldn't live without a man. Until she proved she could. And became stronger for it.